Alexa, what are the latest news from the Caribbean Television Network?
From Caribbean Television Network News. Even in his inability to lead, Ariel Henry enjoys the support of the United States. From Zoom Haiti News Daily. The Assistant Secretary of State for International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs, Todd D. Robinson, reiterated the United States support for the Haitian government in the fight against insecurity.
Zoom Haiti News, français. L'ex-ministre de l'Agriculture, des Ressources naturelles et du développement rural, David Nicolas, est mort.
En Zoom Haiti News Español, el gobierno de Biden agradece la colaboración de las autoridades haitianas en la gestión del expediente de migrantes irregulares devueltos al país.
Zoom Haiti News et Caribbean Television Network, plus de 10 sites internet en anglais, en français, espagnol et plus d'une centaine d'autres langues. Désormais, vous n'avez plus besoin d'un ordinateur ou d'un téléphone portable. Il suffit de demander à Alexa.
What are the latest news from the Caribbean Television Network?
From Caribbean Television Network News. From Zoom Haiti News Daily.
En Zoom Haiti News, français.
En Zoom Haiti News Español.
Caribbean Television Network, en français, anglais, espagnol. Vous pouvez aussi télécharger les applications de Zoom Haiti News en créole, français, anglais, espagnol. Visitez notre site internet sur www.caribbeantelevision.com.
Everybody, sorry to keep you waiting. A lot going on. Today, the Vice President, I'd like to talk to you about how my administration is dealing with our situation on the southwest border. Now, these actions alone that I'm going to announce today aren't going to fix our entire immigration system, but they can help us a good deal in better managing what is a difficult challenge. On my first day in office, some of you may recall, cover this area, and you cover it well. I sent Congress a comprehensive piece of legislation that would completely overhaul what has been a broken immigration system for a long time. Cracking down on illegal immigration, strengthening legal immigration, and protecting dreamers, those who have temporary protective status, and farm workers, who all are part of the fabric of our nation. But congressional Republicans have refused to consider my comprehensive plan. And they rejected my recent request for an additional $3.5 billion to secure the border and funds for 2,000 new asylum personnel, another asylum officers and personnel, and 100 new immigration judges, so people don't have to wait years to get their claims adjudicated, which they have a right to make a claim legally. And the failure to pass and fund this comprehensive plan has increased the challenges that we're seeing at our southwest border. No one knows this better than the Vice President. And to truly understand what's happening there, it's important to step back and see the bigger picture here. You know, I know it's hard to see, but because our politics has been so divisive, you know it's getting much better, you've all observed, but it's been so darn divisive that it like clouds the picture. I mean, it clouds the picture. But let me explain what I'm going to do and as clearly and plainly as I can. I know it's a complicated issue. I don't want to pretend there's anything easy about it. People come to America for a whole lot of different reasons, to seek new opportunity in what is the strongest economy in the world. Can't blame them wanting to do it. They flee oppression, you know, to the freest nation in the world. They chase their own American dream in the greatest nation in the world. And the story of America is the story of so many families, including mine going back to the 1800s from Ireland. Now, there are a number of ways to immigrate to America legally under our existing laws. For example, an American citizen can sponsor an immediate family member from another country. An American company can sponsor an employee from another country. There are visas for students to study in our colleges and other special categories. And regardless of the legal pathway they process them to require everyone be involved in the law. That's no, there are laws to get here legally. That includes another legal way for someone to come to America by seeking asylum because they're fleeing persecution, like a lot of our ancestors did as well. And for many people, that's what's happening at our southwest border now. Over the past several years, thousands of people have been fleeing from Central and South America and the Caribbean countries ruled by oppressive dictators, including Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela, and escaping gang violence, which has the same impact, in Haiti. Currently, these four countries account for most of the people traveling into Mexico to start a new life by getting to the American border and trying to cross. But instead of safe and orderly process at the border, we have a patchwork system that simply doesn't work as it should. We don't have enough asylum officers or personnel to determine whether people qualify for asylum. There's a standard by which you have to meet. We don't have enough immigration judges to adjudicate the claims of immigrants. In fact, the previous administration used a rule called Title 42 to deal with the pandemic, to rapidly expel people who crossed the border. It was designed to deal with the pandemic, but it's used as a means to expel people at the border. People turned away under Title 42, and they're not barred from trying to come back. They've been turned away. They go back. They try again. Well, they can and they do try to re-enter the United States again and again, which makes the problem at the border even worse. And under the United States Supreme Court decision, a case on Title 42 later this year, my administration will make a decision, finally, what to do about Title 42. In the meantime, my administration will continue to use that authority as the Supreme Court has required. And until Congress passes the funds, a comprehensive immigration plan to fix the system completely, my administration is going to work to make things better at the border using the tools that we have available to us now. Today, my administration is taking several steps to stiffen enforcement for those who try to come without a legal right to stay, and to put in place a faster process, I emphasize a faster process, to decide a claim of asylum. Someone says, I'm coming because I'm escaping oppression. Well, there's got to be a way to determine that much quicker for people who are credibly seeking protection from persecution. Secretary of Homeland Security Mayorkas will detail these actions very shortly after I finish at Homeland Security. But here's one significant step we're taking. Over the summer, we saw a huge spike in the number of Venezuelans traveling through Mexico and attempting to enter the United States without going through our legal processes. We responded by using and ensuring that there are two safe and lawful ways for someone leaving the country to come to America. That was one of the reasons you were proposing. First, if they're seeking asylum, they can use an app on their cell phone called CBP1, O-N-E, CBP1, O-N-E. That's to spell it out, not the number one. To schedule an appointment at a port of entry and make their asylum claim there without crossing the border unlawfully, and have a decision determined by an asylum officer, do they qualify? Second, in October, we worked with the Mexican government to launch a new parole program. There's another program called, you all know it, but the public may not, called the parole program, that immediately showed results by reducing the number of people crossing the border unlawfully. The way this parole program works, one must have a lawful sponsor here in the United States who agrees to sponsor you to get here. Then that person has to undergo rigorous background checks and apply from outside the United States and not cross the border illegally in the meantime. If they apply and their application is approved, they can use the same app, the CBP1 app, to present at a port of entry and be able to work in the United States legally for 2 years. That's the process. But if their application is denied, or if they attempt to cross into the United States unlawfully, they'll be returned back to Mexico and will not be eligible for this program after that. So so making the program available, if they apply and they do it properly, fine. If they don't apply and they try to come through, they're not going to have an opportunity to deal with the program. This new process is orderly, it's safe, and it's humane, and it works. Since we created the new program, the number of Venezuelans trying to enter America without going through a legal process has dropped dramatically from about 1,100 per day to less than 250 per day on average. That's several hundred people on average every single day who are not crossing into America illegally. Today, I'm announcing that my administration is going to expand the parole program for people not only from Venezuela, but from Cuba, Nicaragua, and Haiti. Again, these four countries, Venezuela, Cuba, Nicaragua, and Haiti, these four countries account for most of the people now traveling into Mexico to try to start a new life by crossing the border into the United States of America on the southwest border. We anticipate this action is going to substantially reduce the number of people attempting to cross our southwest border without going through a legal process. In fact, today, I'm announcing that Mexico has agreed to allow to return up to 30,000 persons per month who try, get caught, and get sent back from those four countries, or apprehended while attempting to unlawfully cross the border, the southwest border. My message is this: if you're trying to leave Cuba, Nicaragua, or Haiti, or have agreed to begin a journey to America, do not just show up at the border. Stay where you are and apply legally from there. Starting today, if you don't apply through the legal process, you will not be eligible for this new parole program. Let me reiterate. You need a lawful sponsor in the United States of America, number one, and you need to undergo a rigorous background check, number two. If your application is approved and you show up at a U.S. airport or when and where directed, excuse me, you have access. But if your application is denied or you attempt to cross into the United States unlawfully, you will not be allowed to enter. Look, we should all recognize that as long as America is the land of freedom and opportunity, people are going to try to come here. And that's what many of our ancestors did. And it's no surprise that it's happening again today. We can't stop people from making the journey, but we can require them to come here, that they come here in an orderly way under U.S. law. And let me say it again. The actions we're announcing today will make things better, but will not fix the border problem completely. There's more that has to be done. I laid that out in the first week I was here. That work will not be done unless and until the Congress enacts and funds a more comprehensive immigration plan that I proposed on day one. Until Congress has acted, I can act where I have legal capacity to do so. Last year, I brought together 20 leaders, many of you were there, from the Western Hemisphere, heads of state, to stabilize the flow of immigration, to expand pathways to immigration, and to manage the border humanely. The leaders of the hemisphere built on those efforts that I led when I was vice president to expand economic assistance to nations in North Central America, so people here can improve their economic prospects at home instead of having to leave for the United States. Most people would much rather stay in the country they are if they can feed their families, be safe, send their kids to school, and have opportunity. It's not like people have heard me say it before. It's not like people are sitting around a table and somewhere in Central America and say, I got a great idea. Let's sell everything we have. Let's give it to a coyote, a smuggler. They'll take us on a harrowing journey for thousands of miles to get to the United States. Then we're going to legally cross the border. They're going to drop us in the desert, and we're faced where we don't speak the language. Won't that be fun? I'm not being facetious. Well, President Harris led this effort to make things better in the countries from which they are leaving. And thanks to her leadership, she's been able to generate more than $3.2 billion from the private sector to create jobs and opportunities in El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala. Tell people stay in their own countries, home countries, where it'll be safer and they have some opportunities. We've also set up a joint patrols and law enforcement with Mexico and Guatemala that share real-time information on locations that smugglers are using to convince migrant groups to cross illegally. That's what they're doing. They're out recruiting. They're taking all the savings or anything they have to take them on an incredibly dangerous journey. We embedded our Border Patrol officers with Mexican patrols to detect and raid human smuggling operations. This has been, thus far, there had more than 7,000 arrests of human smugglers in the last 6 months. 7,000. That's not just human smuggling at the border. We're focused on cracking down on drug smuggling, which is a serious and deadly problem. And I made a promise we would try this. My administration has allocated record funding that added hundreds of additional Border Patrol agents and install new cutting-edge technologies to be able to use effectively, like an X-ray machine, detailed to be able to look through these large containers to determine what's in the container and at the border. For example, since August of last year, Custom and Border Patrol have seized more than 20,000 pounds of deadly fentanyl. That's enough to kill as many as 1,000 people in this country. 20,000 pounds of fentanyl. It's a killer. It's a flat killer. And next week, I'm going to travel to Mexico, where I'm going to meet with President López Obrador. We have a big agenda that ranges from the climate crisis to economic development and other issues. But one important part of that agenda is strengthening our border between our nations. And I will visit the border myself this Sunday in El Paso to assess border enforcement operations, meet with the local officials and community leaders and the folks at the border sending me what they need that they don't have, and make it public what they conclude they need they don't have, to try to convince my Republican colleagues they should do something. And I know that migration is putting a real strain on the borders and on border communities. They can't do anything but that. We're going to get these communities more support. And I want to thank all the nonprofits, the faith groups, the community leaders, and other volunteers who will make sure that vulnerable immigrants have what they need to survive, whether it's food, warm clothing, shelter, medical care, right after their arrival. These religious and civic groups represent our nation's generosity, the best of our country. And they really do. They really do. And they're a powerful rebuke to the hostility and even the hate which many people face when they arrive here legally. Let me close with this. Our problems at the border didn't arise overnight and they're not going to be solved overnight. It's a difficult problem. It's clear that immigration is a political issue that extreme Republicans are always going to run on. But now they have a choice. They can keep using immigration to try to score political points, or they can help solve the problem. They can help solve the problem and come together to fix the broken system. Before Congress adjourned for the holidays, some Democrats and Republicans, a few of them, got together, both sides up in the Senate, and decided they were going to put together a comprehensive plan on immigration. But the Republican leadership and other Republicans, I don't know who exactly did it, rebuked it and rejected it out of hand. It broke up, just like they rejected my plan 2 years ago, just like they rejected my recent request for an additional $3.5 billion to secure and manage the border with more holding facilities, better transportation, additional funding for 2,000 new asylum officers and personnel, 100 new immigration judges to more rapidly adjudicate for people when they come here, and how much, and so much more. Think about it. I mean, if this were something, if we had to have 100 more immigration officers to see to it that we're able to import something we needed very badly, it wouldn't take very much time to get it, would it? It'd be real done. Or conversely, if there are criminal gangs coming into the nation, but when it comes to immigration, it seems like it's a better issue for them than trying to solve it. Look, we need more resources to secure the border. Yet again, extreme Republicans have said no. Many Republicans agree we should do something. But it's time to stop listening to their inflammatory talk. It's time to look at the record. As I've always done when I'll sit down with anyone who in good faith wants to fix our broken immigration system. And it's hard. It's hard on the best of circumstances. But if the most extreme Republicans continue to demagogue this issue and reject solutions, I'm left with only one choice: to act on my own, do as much as I can on my own to try to change that atmosphere. Immigration reform used to be a bipartisan issue. We can make it that way again. It's not only the right thing to do, it's economically a smart thing to do. That's why immigration reform is supported by everyone. Think of this now. I want to remind the public. Immigration reform is supported by the American labor movement, unions. It's supported by religious leaders. It's supported by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. We can secure our border, fix the immigration system to be orderly, fair, safe, and humane. We can do all this while keeping lit the torch of liberty that has led generations of immigrations to America. Many of our forebears, many of yours. We can do this by remembering who we are. You've heard me say this a million times. We're the United States of America. The idea this is beyond our capacity, I just don't buy. We can do anything and we do it together. And you've heard me say it also many times. God bless you all. May God protect our troops. I'm going to stop here, and in a few minutes, literally a few minutes, Secretary Mayorkas and I have been coordinating. He's going to be speaking in much greater detail. We'll take questions at the Department of Homeland Security headquarters. So I want to thank you for your time, and this is going to be this is a hard one to deal with, but we have to deal with it. I mean, it's who we are.
Mr. President, why that migration is a human right? Activists say that it is. What's your take?
Well, I think it is a human right if your family's being persecuted, if you're being dealt with in a way. I mean, like I thought it was a human right for, Jews in Germany to be able to go to get to escape and get help where they could. But the other side of this is there's also the people in this country have basic rights that are here, basic fundamental rights to assure that people are coming, have been checked out, they're not criminals, they're not problem, that their background checks are real. Look, if you think about it, there's not a whole lot of countries people would rather live in than here. No, I mean it sincerely. I think about this, and I think this is sometimes the team looks at me like maybe I'm out of my mind here, but all kidding aside, if you just said tomorrow, all right, for the next year, you can move to any country you want without any questions. How many people do you think are going to leave the United States? And I can name any of the 140 some countries I've been to. There's more than that. I think you get a lot would be willing to leave and come here. So there's a rationale. There has to be an orderly process and a rationale to it. But it is, and there's other ways we can deal with this, as I said. You may remember, I don't think you're old enough to have been doing it when I was doing it as a senator, when I came up with a proposal to have billions of dollars of funding for the Central America to keep people where they are. Remember, we were putting, and it was very, very precise. For example, if the country was in economic difficulty, and most of them are because of climate and other things, and we say, okay, well, they have a problem. Well, guess what? They don't have lighting in their town squares. They can't assure the safety of people walking the streets. Well, if their leader asked for money, we made them sign a proposal that they're going to do lighting in the town squares, what they're going to do, exactly what they're going to do. We checked it out, we put it in, and it began to work. Or hospitals, we have hospitals that don't function because they don't have the following. Well, one of the reasons people will stay is if you've improved the hospital. We were doing that. And the thing that I'm so presumptuous to say proud of the vice president, she went beyond the United States and contributors to try to get the rest of the world to say, look, this makes sense. And, she got commitments of $3.2 billion. And so there's a lot to be done. And think about it, even back in days when it's so easy to demagogue this issue. It's so easy to demagogue it. And you hear, a number of our friends, the MAGA Republicans, talking about, they don't even want me speaking English anymore. They want me speaking da-da-da. They're gonna take over my community, my name, they, whoever they are at the time. Well, that's what a lot of folks went through when they got here, going all the way back to the 1800s. It's not new. It's part of it's human nature and fear, but there's got to be an orderly way. And I know we can make it much, much better.
Mr. President, why did you decide that now is finally the right time to visit the southern border? Republicans have been calling on you to do this since the beginning.
Because Republicans haven't been serious about this at all. Come on. They haven't been serious about this at all. I wanted to make sure that I knew what the outcome, at least the near outcome, was on Title 42 before I went down. We don't have that yet, so I had to operate. I don't like Title 42, but it's the law now. I have to operate within it. My prediction is nothing particularly insightful about this. Title 42 is going to go away before the end of the year in terms of the Supreme Court, my prediction. And then we're going to have to use Title 8. 8, right? Am I right? Yeah, Title 8. 8, 9, and which we can implement what we're doing here, plus some other things. But so I wanted to make sure there was a rational way in which we could begin to announce. But I couldn't wait once the Supreme Court ruled that they're not going to make the final decision on Title 42 for some time, for another, who knows, probably not till June, in that range. Oh, I don't know that for a fact, to be able to lay this out. But look, my Arcus is waiting to impress you all. All kidding aside.
How about Ukraine, sir?
Are you concerned about the fact that requiring an airline to get prejudice or sort of lean it toward wealthier migrants and
Yes.
make it harder for poorer migrants?
Yeah, but there's also ways to get to ports of entry along the border as well.
I'm sorry. So the ceasefire proposed by President Putin in Ukraine for the Orthodox Christmas on January 6th, 7th. Have you heard about that? Do you have a reaction to whether it's...
I'm reluctant to respond to anything Putin says. I found it interesting. He was ready to bomb hospitals and nurseries and churches, and on the 25th and New Year's, and I mean, I think he's trying to find some oxygen. Thank you so
Sir,
far.
are you still monitoring the speaker's race? Are you still watching the speaker's race?
I'm following with great, how can I say it?
Attention.
Attention.
Mr. President, have you decided?
Thank you.
Alors, et président et Biden, donc lui-même qui t'a bail, et quelques explications sur et décision et administration là, les prend pour capable déporter les Haïtiens et Vénézuéliens, et Cubains, Nikaragwayen qui ont même vini et à présenter donc sous frontière américaine. Donc, qui ça lui dit dans la conférence client et très rapidement, il dit les renouveler que et depuis c'est monde qui sorti dans pays ça yo puisque c'est majorité monde qui se trouvait sur frontière c'est dans 4 pays ça yo sorti donc qui sorti Brésil et Haïti qui sorti alors c'est citoyen pays ça yo on pas dire c'est là sorti puisque il y a Ayisyen qui sorti Brésil Chili qui c'est Haïtien, Cubain, Vénézyelyen, Nikaragwayen, eh bien il y a voyé yo tourner et dans pays yo. Il dit yo joint un accord avec et président mexicain et Manuel López Obrador pour capable déporter et moun sa yo donc dans tête colère ensemble avec autorité dans pays yo et il dit yo mettez 2 moyens pour moun yo venir entrer ici gagner yon application qui est le CBP ONE donc application ça c'est les mêmes moun yo capable utiliser pour solliciter asile quel que soit côté yoyé mais faut que yo gagne un monde qui a vivre ici légalement et qui prêt pour sponsoriser yo donc c'est-à-dire que pour recevoir yo pour accepter yo pendant temps pour reconnaître donc monde ça là et puis Il dit, pendant le temps que ça passe là, c'est chaque jour gagné environ 2700 personnes en moyenne, donc qui a rentré aux États-Unis sous frontière, et moun sa yo, pour la grande majorité, c'est Haïtiens, Vénézuéliens, Cubains, et puis Nikaragwayen. Donc, il dit, yo conseiller moun yo rete dans pays yo, gen disposition qui prend, États-Unis a supporté pays yo pour capable améliorer conditions yo, par gen côté moun et vivre plus bien que les ou vivre donc dans pays où donc les encourager et tout le monde yo pour essayer dans la mesure du possible rester dans pays yo, li annoncer que li prêt pour le travail. Alors le fait qu'on est li prêt pour continuer travailler ensemble avec républicains yo pour yo capable essayer résoudre et problème et immigration, donc fixer question et immigration une fois pour toutes, li bay détail tout, donc qui ça administration là, donc les mêmes li fait et normalement, li dit par la conférence de presse, s'il va faire déjà avec et ministre intérieur, donc ça relève secrétaire Homeland Sécurité, donc les mêmes qui pourra bay détail sous procédure pour nous appliquer qui gens pour faire ça, mais nouvelle là désormais c'est que depuis ou sorti Haïti ou sorti depuis ça Haïtien ou c'est Vénézyelyen ou c'est Kiben ou c'est Nikaragwayen ou présenté sous frontière et Mexico, États-Unis avec Mexique, eh bien, il y a voyé retourner, donc il y a dépote soit à Mexique ou bien il y a dépote dans le pays d'origine, donc en façon pour capable et décongestionner et système migratoire et américain, donc c'est ça, président américain Joe Biden, donc lui-même l'a dit, nous, après regarder pour nous, est-ce que conférence avec ministre affaires étrangères, alors ministre et intérieur, donc, et secrétaire Homeland Sécurité pour nous, est-ce qu'il déjà commencé pour permettre aux capables de gagner des détails sur qui ça nouvelle dans lui-même lié, qui j'en l'a pas appliqué. Donc, entre-temps, nous allons passer et quelques spots pour nous. S'il commence, s'il beaucoup commencer, nous tourner avec les commencer, donc, de telle sorte que nous sommes capables de permettre de gagner toute information et à temps. Et puis, connaît tout qui décision pour prendre, puisque nous connaissons un Ayisyen qui était déjà à Mexique, qui attend pour être capable d'entrer ici, gagner qui, et moun qui Haïti tout, gagner moun qui est dans Brésil, Chili, qui besoin faire voyage, là, donc, qui, et attendre donc pour connaître ça qu'a fait donc information l'important pour nous n'a chercher lui et puis dès lors que nous jeunes n'a porter le pour
parfois c'est très difficile mais t'es bon Dieu dans ciel là et il a commencé avec nous il fini nous arriver
chaque samedi à partir 7h soir Caribbean Television Network avec Zoom Haiti News a invité à regarder émission Marathon c'est une émission sur immigration qui permet autant de témoignages à quelques compatriotes qui te prennent route là sorti Chili, Brésil et l'autre pays pour venir chercher la vie meilleure États-Unis.
On est quitté parti quitter madame parce que madame était trop gros, n'est pas de avancer, il peut aller ça t'est vraiment fait mal.
Dans émission Marathon, on a bien possibilité tout joindre toute information qui vient à ouais à question immigration dans pays États-Unis, Canada, Saint-Domingue, Brésil, Chili et l'autre côté. Pas rater occasion pour être informé sur tout ça qui vient à ouais à immigration. Ou capable regarder émission Marathon sur toute plateforme nous yo Roku, Amazon TV Fire, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter et site internet nous ctn25.com. Caribbean Television Network avec Zoom Haiti News depuis ses côtés haïtiens nous là.
Alexa, what are the latest news from the Caribbean Television Network?
From Caribbean Television Network News. Even in his inability to lead, Ariel Henry enjoys the support of the United States. From Zoom Haiti News Daily. The Assistant Secretary of State for International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs, Todd D. Robinson, reiterated the United States' support for the Haitian government in the fight against insecurity.
Zoom Haiti News, français. L'ex-ministre de l'Agriculture, des Ressources naturelles et du Développement rural, David Nicolas, est mort.
En Zoom Haiti News español, el gobierno de Biden agradece la colaboración de las autoridades haitianas en la gestión del expediente de migrantes irregulares devueltos al país.
Zoom Haiti News et Caribbean Television Network, plus de 10 sites internet, en anglais, français, espagnol et plus d'une centaine d'autres langues. Désormais, vous n'avez plus besoin d'un ordinateur ou d'un téléphone portable. Il suffit de demander à Alexa.
Alexa, What are the latest news from the Caribbean Television Network?
From Caribbean Television Network News. From Zoom Haiti News Daily.
En Zoom Haiti News, français.
En Zoom Haiti News espagnol.
Caribbean Television Network, en français, anglais et espagnol. Vous pouvez aussi télécharger les applications de Zoom Haiti News en créole, français, anglais et espagnol. Visitez notre site internet sur www.caribbeantelevisionnetwork.com. Chaque jour, branchez Zoom Haiti News à Caribbean Television Network sous Roku et Amazon TV Fire. Ou à nous tous sous ZHN Live ak CTN Live dans Roku ak Amazon TV Fire. Ou pas gain télévision? Al droite sous Apple Store ou bien Google Store, téléchargez l'application Roku. L'offre télécharger l'application ça, ou chercher ZHN Live. Ou à même channel ça tout dans Amazon TV Fire. Pas hésiter à abonner à la chaîne YouTube nous. Et puis suivez nous tous sur Facebook dans Zoom Haiti News à Caribbean Television Network.
La jeunesse vient tande. Yo di Covid ale, mais c'est pas vrai. Virus là, l'a muté, l'a transformé et l'a continué vers le terrain. L'a évolué rapidement et c'est nous toutes qui pour mobiliser pour nous couper coronavirus ça. On nous continue à prendre toutes mes précautions nous te kan prend déjà yo. Si vous pas vacciné, al prend vaccin. Si vous te prend des premières doses, al prend booster. Toujours songer mettre masque. Lavez-moi souvent. Évitez en foule sous déjà un problème santé. Renforcer le système immunitaire, respecter les consignes CDC et recommandations faites dans l'état côté ou vivre. Coronavirus là, il n'a mis nous toujours. Il n'est pas obligé fatal. Alors c'est mettre corps qui peut veiller corps. Mais ça, c'est United Front of the Haitian Diaspora qui porte pour nous en conjonction avec aucun jeune travail à faire avec Morehouse School of Medicine. Pour plus d'informations, visitez le site internet dans www.haitianunitedfront.org ou ncrn.msm.edu ou bien reléo dans 202 918 69 92.
Parfois, c'est très difficile, mais t'es un bon Dieu dans le ciel là. Et il a commencé avec nous, il finit, nous arrivons là.
Chaque samedi, à partir de 7h à soir, Caribbean Television Network et Zoom Haiti News a invité à regarder l'émission Marathon. Marathon, c'est une émission sur immigration qui permet autant de témoignages à quelques compatriotes qui te prennent route là, sorti Chili, Brésil et l'autre pays pour venir chercher la vie meilleure États-Unis.
On est quitté parti, quitté madame, parce que madame était trop gros, c'est pas de cas avancé, les petits moun aller, ça t'est vraiment fait mal.
Dans l'émission Marathon, on a bien possibilité tout joindre toute information qui vient à question immigration dans le pays États-Unis, Canada, Saint-Domingue, Brésil, Chili et l'autre côté. Pas rater occasion pour être informé sur tout ça qui vient à immigration. Ou capable regarder émission Marathon sur toute plateforme nous yo, Roku, Amazon TV Fire, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter et site internet nous ctn25.com. Caribbean Television Network et Zoom Haiti News, depuis ces côtés haïtiens, nous là.
Zoom Haiti News et Caribbean Television Network, plus de 10 sites internet en anglais, français, espagnol et plus d'une centaine d'autres langues. Désormais, vous n'avez plus besoin d'un ordinateur ou d'un téléphone portable. Il suffit de demander à Alexa.
Alexa, what are the latest news from the Caribbean Television Network?
From Caribbean Television Network News. From Zoom Haiti News Daily.
En Zoom Haiti News, français.
En Zoom Haiti News espagnol.
Caribbean Television Network, en français, anglais et espagnol. Vous pouvez aussi télécharger les applications de Zoom Haiti News en créole, français, anglais et espagnol. Visitez notre site internet sur www.caribbeantelevisionnetwork.com.